you're going to go from 100 applicants down to maybe 10 or 15 applicants. Most people are going to not complete the test project and also fail at this test project, which is exactly what you want to happen. Welcome to the Ecomm Breakthrough Shortcuts. In these 5-minute episodes, we cut straight to the real stories, real numbers, and the real lessons learned from brand builders and entrepreneurs just like yourself. No fluff, just high impact takeaways that you can apply into your business today. So step number 5 is where we turn up the heat, okay? This is where we have candidates complete a test project of a real task or a project that they would need to perform on the job. You're going to go from 100 applicants down to maybe 10 or 15 applicants. Most people are going to not complete the test project and also fail at this test project, which is exactly what you want to happen. I also want to interject here and ask you to pause and reflect. How many times have I asked you to read anybody's resume or application yet, or read their cover letter? And the answer to that is 0. There are 0 times where I read anybody's cover letter or resume, even when I extend the job offer, okay? Because it doesn't matter. The resume for A-level talent does not matter. All right, so let's take a look at this. Here's an example of a test project, all right? So this is for like one of the creative director positions that we hired for, okay? Here's an example of the email we created, and we recorded a Loom video. Both my wife and I were featured in that Loom video because now they feel like, okay, there's actually some real people sitting behind this and I get to see their faces. Okay, so here's the example of that test project that was included in that email. We need you to create a simple test project with the following deliverables. Create an A+ content page for blah, blah, blah. We're giving them access to our resources, like we gave them access to our listing images, to an AI files, etc. Now, again, we're not giving them access to all of the files within the company. There's like a test project folder where we give them some assets because we want them to be able to play with real life things that they would be doing in the actual project itself. And they can't steal that IP anyways. So I don't stress about that. Okay. And then I'm going to ask them to create a 5-minute Loom video that walks me through the decisions that they made in order to create those content or that content. Okay. And then I give them a due date, and then I ask them to send that to our email with very specific directions of how I want them to title the subject line, because again, I want to see how good they are at following directions. Now, you may be asking like, oh, I don't know, like that's a good example for a creative director. What about for a supply chain specialist? What about for an accounting controller? What about for a customer support specialist? Like for every role I hire for, and hear this, every role, that includes a VA, that includes a customer support specialist, even the lowest level team member that you want to hire, you have to create a test project for them. Use ChatGPT to get ideas. Here's a prompt, okay? And again, I like to have ChatGPT give me 10 different project ideas because as I review that, I'm going to have 10 that I'm like, actually, I like this one. I like number 5 and I like number 8. And I like different aspects of them. Maybe I can combine them all together to create the ultimate test project that I really want to be created. So have ChatGPT create the test project and to create the email that explains the test project as well. And then what I would just really encourage you to do is make sure that you add in your Loom video of yourself explaining that test project to somebody and what your expectations are. Again, just to give that more personal human feel. The nice part is this Loom video can go out to all 100 people. So again, it saves your time with this asynchronous meeting rather than having to set up Zoom calls with 100 people to give them this instruction. All right, so let's talk about some test project tips and FAQs that always get asked to me. So what's the normal completion rate? How many of those 100 do you think actually complete it? 20 to 30% are actually going to complete it. Now, not all of those that complete it are going to have good test projects. So that's why I say like you'll end up with like 10 or maybe 15 that you're like, decent. These are decent test projects. I could use this in my own work, right? Okay. One of the things, do they do it for free? Yes, they most certainly do it for free. And the reason why I am very confident in saying you should ask them to do this for free is because guess what happened when I was completing my MBA at the University of Utah in between years 1 and 2, and I applied for a job with American Airlines. And guess what they asked me to do as part of the process? When it got to the final round, they asked me to complete a test project. They said, when we deliver this file to you, you will have exactly 60 minutes to send it back to us. And if you don't, you're done, like flat out, like you're out of the running. So I remember going to a study hall, study room, locked the door, made sure nobody's going to interrupt me for 60 minutes. Okay. And completed that test project for somebody. So guess what? If the top businesses in the America are doing that, why in the world are you not doing that? Okay. And yes, are you going to get some people who will say like, how dare you ask me to do this for free? And are you going to get probably out of 100 people, maybe 2 are going to be like, how dare you? I don't work for free. Okay, goodbye. That's it. Okay. And don't worry about it. Who creates this test project? It's not the CEO. It's whoever the immediate supervisor is going to be. So whoever is reviewing their work on a day-to-day basis, whoever's meeting with that person, they are the ones who have to create the test project because they are the ones that are closer to the problems and what we're looking for in terms of solutions and somebody that's succeeding in that role. Who reviews it? It's the immediate supervisor. And when it comes to reviewing it, make sure that you create a scoring rubric. So when you're scoring the test project, don't just be like, I think I'm going to give it an A. Next guy, I'm giving it a B. And these are just random scores that you're assigning. Like, go through here. Here's like 5 different things you could test them on. How do they communicate? Like, is it easy for me to understand just in their Loom video? Like, I could turn this on 2x speed and I can still understand them well. Okay, great. That's 5. I'll give them a 5 out of 5. Are they articulate, or do they just like, they blabbered on about nonsense for 5 minutes and I got no value or information from this, right? Are they detail oriented? Job specific requirement 1, job specific requirement 2. Were they accurate, right? Did they come to the right conclusion? If you do a supply chain study and it's like, how many units do we need to order for this for SKU XYZ? Here's how many units we have in stock currently. Here's the lead time, etc. Did they come to the right conclusion, right? How close did they get to the number? Score that on a level of 1 to 5. Okay. Ask the candidate to record a 5-minute Loom discussing the test project, why they made those decisions. You want that. You do not want them to just send you an Excel sheet that you have to go through, right? Because like as soon as you turn on that Loom video, most likely within the first 2 minutes, you're going to already know like, yeah, this test project's worth scoring, or wow, this thing's hot trash anyways, like out. Like, and I'm going to save my time from having to even score this project because like, I can't even understand you to begin with, dude. Right? So don't bend over backwards to score every single one. If you had, let's say you had 50 applicants, like that's still a lot. So save yourself the time, make sure they have a Loom video. And guess what? If they don't record a Loom video, or guess what? If their Loom video's over 5 minutes, not a great sign, right? Now it can be, and there are times where somebody goes a little over, but like it's very value jammed, like I'll consider it, right? Don't fool yourself. If the candidate performs poorly on the test project, do not move forward with them. Do not go in being like, well, their culture index was so good and their CCAT score was so high, or their resume is so good. They came from some fantastic background. Who cares? Because this test project is let me reiterate that, the most accurate predictor of job success. Even more so than the criteria corp score, it is the test project. However they do on this test project, hopefully they knock this thing out of the park. And if they knock it out of the park, you're like, oh yeah, like you thought of things I never even thought of. That's what you're looking for. Okay. And then the last thing here, if someone misses the deadline for submitting the test project, they're immediately disregarded. It's like, when you're doing the test project, this is when you should be on your A game. This is like, you should be at your best. And so if somebody comes back and like, they're not at their best, like They couldn't even submit it by their due date, or their mom's in the hospital, their dad, whatever. Again, we give somebody grace, like, all right, their spouse goes to the hospital. Like, I hear you. Maybe we might make a rare exception, but like, how often does the dog eat the homework? Right? Not very often. And so if somebody's already giving you excuses, that's a big red flag. They have to outperform and have excellent scores on everything else to where I would consider and say, like, okay, maybe it's legit. You did need this extra day because something happened in your personal life.